Welcome back to Run Through TV. It is Ben Sheppard here. Okay, today's guest had an amazing career, not on land, but on water. Who is he? Check him out.
My name's Greg Searle. I was an Olympic gold medalist rower. I competed at 4 Olympic Games, the first one when I was 20. Then I took 10 years out in the middle and came back for London 2012. And I guess competing in London 2012 was part of what connects me to the charity Access Sport, because Access Sport is all about giving kids the opportunities to play sport. And I guess in London, we had this wonderful vision to inspire a generation, and that's hard, really hard. And we need charities like Access Sport to help make that happen.
Look, we all know that the journey to a gold medal is going to take time, commitment, a lot of hard work. But for Greg, what did that look like?
I could see the steps towards it from quite early, I guess. I was lucky. I had a history teacher called Mr. Cross, and he rode with a bloke called Mr. Redgrave. And Mr. Redgrave obviously turned out to be Steve Redgrave and got 5 Olympic gold medals. And he won his first one with my history teacher. So it was pretty amazing to have this guy who seemed like a regular teacher at our school, but actually went to the Olympic Games and came back with a gold medal when I was 12, 13. And then that then gave me a good pathway to follow. I actually ended up rowing with him. By the time I was 19, I got into Great Britain 8 and rowed with him and my older brother. And then I got to then follow into Barcelona and then win gold rowing with my brother in Barcelona.
And that moment, achieving that dream, what did that feel like for Greg?
It was a validation of a lot of work, a sort of affirmation that you go, I'm as good as I ever dreamed I might be. You look at people and think, oh, maybe I could do that, but I want to do that, and you get to do it. For me, there was no come down because I'd built to it steadily. We'd achieved it. I then enjoyed it, and then for me, the only pain really came when I wasn't able to do it again, because I loved it at 20. And I obviously wanted to carry on, and in every race I entered, I wanted to enjoy it just as much and have the same feelings. But the disappointing bit for me was then the other events when I wasn't able to win, rather than any sort of come down after it.
And after that Games, Greg went on to represent Great Britain at 3 more, achieving 2/3 and a 4th, which are, incredible results. But for Greg, as you've heard, it was all about the win. So how did he go about dealing with those moments?
It certainly took me time to rationalize what had happened. So I might sort of go, a day later, there's nothing I could have done. Yeah. A week later, maybe if I'd done something a week before, I might have got a different impact. And then a year on, I'd say, maybe if I'd made some different choices a year earlier, then maybe I would have got a different result. But again, I sort of feel like I made choices and not sacrifices all of the time. For me, it was never a sacrifice to be an athlete. I loved it. I loved being an athlete when I was 20. I loved being an athlete when I was 40. I just had to make different choices in order to do that. And I look back on those choices and go, well, I could have done this, but then I might not have had that. So it's all just, for me, I'm able to sort of rationalize it and say, as a whole package, getting what I've got out of sport, I feel really, really satisfied with.
Something Greg holds very dear to him is London 2012. Greg was actually retired. His life was very different. He had a family, he had kids. So coming back and representing his country once again in very different circumstances was a little bit different, I think it's fair to say.
The honest truth is I enjoyed it more second time round.
Okay.
I think I was like a sort of mature student going back to university. Yeah. You kind of enjoy it a bit more, You're like, youth is wasted on the young sort of thing, Enjoy this because it's really special to put on shorts every morning, to go to a gym, to roll around on a crash mat, stretching your hamstrings. And, as long as you get your hamstrings stretched out, then you'll probably be able to do what you need to do at work. That's very different to having to get an early train, go to a stressful meeting. And, I loved it that I trained each day in the gym, went rowing virtually every day, went rowing and went on the rowing machine virtually every day. It was quite, those are nice things to do. Those are all nice things to do when you're 40. and I got to do that every day. And then I got to go away to lovely places around the world and compete with a really great bunch of people. And I like I say, I enjoyed it. It was painful, but it was a choice. I knew it was going to be hard, and it was choosing a harder path that gave better rewards.
Having represented Great Britain over a 20-year span, how, for Greg, have things changed over time?
I mean, there was a big difference in the way the team was in 2012 compared to what it had been like in the 90s. In the 90s, there was free lottery funding, and we were even separate clubs, let alone separate sports. Okay. So I didn't really know many athletes from many other sports. There was healthy competition between boats, and then healthy competition between sports, sometimes bordering on unhealthy, probably. You fast forward to London 2012, and we genuinely felt like we were all in it together. The country was behind us. People really wanted us to do well. People cared whether we did well. People wore our shirts, all that sort of stuff, which, in the 90s, you didn't really go out and buy Olympic team kit. In 96, the whole of Team GB got one gold medal. And, there was a bit of an inquest, why was the Olympic team doing so badly? And yet in 2012, it's like, you couldn't move for Olympic gold medalists. Sports Personality of the Year was a sea of success, and it was lovely to be part of that wave.
You can see Greg's love and passion for sport throughout this conversation, and through that love and passion came his involvement with a charity called Access Sport.
Yeah, so I've been involved with Access Sport for probably about 15 years now. So I have children now who are 19 and 21, but I guess, wind that back to when I first got involved with Access Sport, they were 6 and 8 or something like that. And I could see that I was able to give them opportunities to play sport. I could see the benefits that I was personally getting and the benefits they're getting from sport in terms of feeling in control of something in their lives, having a group of people around them who you have a really special level of trust and friendship with, and doing something where when you play a sport, you get to feel good, you get immediate feedback, you do something and you feel good about it. And if you do something that's not so good, you get challenged about it. And I think those are really important kind of values that sport can provide. And so many young people don't get that opportunity either, well, for many reasons, but it could be, I guess, from a social point of view, that it's not around them, they're not given the access, the opportunity to play, because of disability, because they come to a club and they might not feel welcome, they might not feel like they fit in. So for me, to find a charity that sat alongside that vision of inspiring a generation and say, yeah, well, we're going to inspire this generation, but what do we do that actually helps them? And Access Sport helps young people play sport. And I thought that was fantastic.
And finally, what does sport mean to Greg? What is it giving him, and what potentially could it give you?
How you define yourself, who you are. Often people think about the experiences they had in sport, what values we get from playing sport, then carry on into other areas of our lives, whether that's following rules, respecting officials, respecting people in authority, respecting your peers, respecting yourself. Those things are all pretty important in sport. And those things are pretty important in life. And it's often hard to know where you're going to pick those things up. And sport gives a huge opportunity to do that.
A big thank you to Greg for coming on RunThrough TV. And thank you to him for joining us at an event recently. Remember, you can enter up at runthrough.co.uk. I'll also drop a link in the description of this video to Access Sport, the charity me and Greg spoke about, if you do want to check them out. Remember as well, this is just the highlights of our conversation. You can check out the full conversation on our channel now, and please make sure you subscribe to RunThrough TV.